Juicy conversation coming up here. Very juicy, 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 juicy. Don't know how many more times I can say juicy. Do you like the word juicy, Geordie?
I do, mate. Especially when I'm talking about a woman's arse.
I threw you the alley and you ooped it right there. That's exactly what I wanted.
I'm always ready.
All right, so we're going to talk about who we think at the moment in world football as a whole are the top 5 best teams. We are ranking the top 5 best teams. You're not just going to get the Bleacher Report where they're going to break it down statistically and talk about why each team are the best. You're going to get the truthful, honest information about why we think these teams are the best in the world at the moment. So we're not going to keep you waiting until the end so that we can just say, all right, so this is number 1. No, we're going to throw it from the start. Who's your best team in the world at the moment, Geordie?
I'm going to say Barcelona, mate.
Oh, shit. I disagree, but we'll go ahead and talk about it. Why?
Why? Because last season, and I kind of like the look of football over a period of time. I know we're talking about form, but you know how amazing they were when they won the Champions League. They went and won the league. They were just so much better than everybody else. And you know this season, all right, Messi's injured, so they've taken a little bit of a hit, but they're still amazing. So to me, they're number 1.
The reason why I disagree is because I don't think they've been tested enough yet. I think the big test is going to come in 2 weeks because I think that Bayern Munich have been tested at the moment, and I know they lost against Arsenal, and that's going to go directly against my favour. I can see it already. You're thinking, all right, they lost to Arsenal.
They failed that test.
How can they be the best? But the reason why is they've just dismantled Borussia Dortmund, who are the strongest rivals that they face in Germany. They cruised by Arsenal in the second game. They look devastating going forward. They've got that dynamic sorted up top where they can play Lewandowski with Thomas Müller on the right. They don't even have Robin fully back fit yet. They don't even have Ribery back, but they still have a great combination up there. And one of the main reasons why I think they're the best in the world is because they have one of the most frightening players going forward, and that's Douglas Costa. I haven't seen anyone in a wide area attack as well as he has at the moment. And I think that with their strong back four as well, firmly in place and the best goalkeeper in the world, I think that all in all paper right now, I think Bayern Munich are the best team in the world. And it does go back to my previous point. Barcelona with Messi back, fully fit, I think it's a different story because no matter who they play against, I still think that they're fully going to be the better team. But I still just remember that Barcelona who lost to Celta Vigo as well, even though they're dominating dominating La Liga. I just haven't seen them. Villarreal are a good team, by the way, don't get me wrong, and they dismantled them at the weekend. But in the Champions League, for instance, I think they got one of the easiest groups, and I don't think that they've been fully challenged to the extent as the team that I'm putting ahead of them.
I'll agree with you that they haven't been challenged, but I don't think that's their fault. You know, and what you do say, I think what I like about Barcelona is when they do have big games, they rise to the occasion. You know, we're seeing Bayern Munich at the end of last season, which it wasn't that long ago. They absolutely ripped them to shreds, and it was quite embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? It was really easy. So, and don't get us wrong, you know, I know Guardiola is reinventing them with Vidal, and he's changing, you know, with Costa. I mean, what a signing Costa's been. I agree with you on that. But you look at the best players in the world, top 4, 3 of those are Barcelona players. Yeah. And to me, that's ridiculous quality. I don't. In my lifetime, I don't know if I've ever seen that in one team, like 3 out of the top 4 in one team.
I think that by the end of this season, I'll be agreeing with you. Right now, I just think of what I've seen. Bayern Munich just tip it for me because, as I said, in Bundesliga, they're dominating. I think Barcelona, I don't see, in La Liga, I didn't see much of the separation between them and Real Madrid until this weekend when Real Madrid lost and now Barcelona go 3 points clear. But I still think that, as you just mentioned there, the Bayern Munich that we've seen at the end of the season against Barcelona, without their wide men, Guardiola has understood that. He's readjusted. He's brought in players who now can play in those areas that they needed strength.
How do you think Real Madrid fare against Bayern Munich?
I think Bayern Munich would beat Real Madrid. I genuinely think Bayern Munich would beat Real Madrid, especially if you're talking in the present terms. Real Madrid with a fully fit team, yes, I think that they're stronger this season. I think at the back, before the game against Sevilla, I thought I was giving so much credit to Rafa Benitez. He got them the most clean sheets I think they've had in 3 or 4 seasons in the start of the season. And I thought, okay, He's understood that we aren't just Real Madrid who's going to go flow forward, play fancy football and win games. He understands that what it takes to win to have a good rounded team is a good defence, and he's built that. And I think that, especially with having Navas in goals, they look a lot stronger at the back. But then they don't have the depth that Bayern Munich have because they lose James Rodriguez and he comes on late in the game, but they lose Gareth Bale, they lose Benzema, and they go ahead and they struggle. They beat PSG with a lucky goal, it should be said, from Nacho. If PSG decided to actually realise that Cavani's a piece of shit and not give him the ball, I think they would have won that. They could have easily drawn, if not won that game. And
PSG are a very good team, though.
Exactly, and PSG are a good team, and that's why I think...
have PSG as a tougher test than Arsenal, personally.
Yeah, I think PSG, I honestly do. I think PSG are a great team. I think that Real Madrid did a fantastic job in Paris. Real Madrid in the Bernabeu, I think, got away with murder a little bit against PSG. I think the PSG, seeing Di Maria pass the ball consistently to Cavani when he was into those great areas, just was frustrating. If you see, I don't think that PSG get that room against Bayern Munich. I think the Real Madrid got off a little bit lucky. So I think that it comes down to that. The same thing against me is
I've got Barcelona at number 1.
Yeah.
And it's very close between Real Madrid and Bayern because I feel like Bayern are the better team. However, if Real Madrid are fully fit and everyone's fit and everyone's on form, I think Real Madrid would beat Bayern because I just think that those players like Ronaldo, like Bale, like James, they've just got a few more stars than what Bayern have, although Bayern are just a better team in general.
Yeah.
And I think Real Madrid I would have them just above Bayern probably.
And when they play against each other, like, I hope they do, because I love that game against them. But I think it comes down to a battle of the midfield when they play against each other, because they've both got attacking threats. I do agree that Real Madrid have the more out-and-out stars. And I think it comes down to Toni Kroos and Modric, who are two somewhat attacking-sensed midfielders. I think that Bayern Munich with Xabi Alonso in there, who knows that he has to just sit and protect and spray the ball, and Vidal, who's a box-to-box midfielder, I think it would be a phenomenal game. I think it would be very close. But I like the fact that
they played not last season, but the season before.
Yeah.
And Real Madrid wrecked Bayern.
Yeah.
But I think Vidal changes that game completely, potentially. Yeah. So I'm going to give, for me, I would put Real 2, Bayern 3.
Wow.
But I wouldn't argue with anyone who said Bayern were better because I think that's an easy argument to make as well.
Well, I like the fact that we're disagreeing here. I like the fact that we're changing it up. So you've got Barcelona, Real Madrid, then Bayern, and I've got...
Well, I haven't even mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo, but I have to say, it's Cristiano Ronaldo. He is amazing. He's a goal machine. So, and that is, as good as Bayern are, they don't have anyone anywhere near Cristiano Ronaldo.
Not even Robert Lewandowski, who can't miss at the moment either?
I think Lewandowski's been banging them in, and he's on form, but Lewandowski's on form is Ronaldo's average day on a Sunday.
I agree with that. But I think still, you take it, you look at it in this context, right? You take Lewandowski out, I think that you just push Müller into the middle, you put Robin out wide right, and you've got Douglas Costa up there, you still get a shit ton of goals. Whereas I think that you take Ronaldo, as we've seen against PSG, you get Ronaldo on a day where he's not feeling it as much, and you see them tie 0-0. So I think the goals are always going to come, but goals don't always win games. I mean, that does sound stupid, but if you start to concede goals the way I think that teams can, like Bayern Munich, I think Bayern Munich would concede more goals than Real Madrid, because I still don't think they've shored it up and back as much as Real Madrid have. But I still think that when it comes to Bayern Munich, their best form of defence is their attacking capabilities.
Yeah, possession. It's the Guardiola way. That's why Arsenal got some joy against them, and Arsenal won. You know, obviously they smashed Arsenal the second time, but I think Arsenal did open a few people's eyes to how beatable Bayern can be.
Yeah.
For me, in at number 4.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
This is where it gets really interesting. In at number 4, I think I would say PSG.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly who I had. At 4th was PSG. There was 3 teams, which I'll talk about, toying between 3, or 4 even. I think PSG take it because all-round capability, apart from their finishing capabilities, they can rival anyone. I think at the back, they're very good.
If Zlatan's in and Cavani's not, I think you're all right.
Yeah, I think at the back, they're just as good. I think in the midfield, they've got a fantastic dynamic in there of Mota, Verratti, Matuidi. But with those 3, they're very hard-working players. I don't think there's enough flair in the final third. But then when you get Di Maria getting back to the way that he has been before, like he was against Real Madrid, I thought he had a great game in Madrid. But you still need that finishing ability. That's why they won't get any higher than 4th for me. And that's why I still think that unless they can avoid Madrid, Barcelona, and Bayern Munich to get to the latter stages, I think they'll lose to any of those 3 teams.
Well, the way I was trying to think about it was, I was thinking about Premier League teams.
Yeah, so was I.
And I was thinking, if you put PSG in the Premier League, do they win the Premier League? Probably is the answer to that for me. I would say, because I think their defence is absolutely fantastic. They would dominate midfields every fucking game. Yeah. I don't think there's a midfield. I don't think Arsenal... I mean, don't get us wrong, you get the odd game where Arsenal might win or whatever, but I think in general, Arsenal, City, Man United's midfield can't do what PSG's can do.
Well, and this is what I think people need to understand when you're talking... We're not talking about whether or not PSG getting into the Premier League and winning it means they're a great team. We're talking about how that competes with teams that might rival them for top 5 best teams in the world. Like, as you just said, if you put PSG into the Premier League, I don't think they slip up against teams like Crystal Palace. I don't think they tie with Aston Villa in Aston Villa's home team. I think that they grind out those results because they have got a better well-rounded team. They might not have as many stars as like De Bruyne or Aguero or them up there, but again, similar to Bayern Munich, they've got a very cohesive, well put together team that's like a well-oiled machine in France.
It is. It's a machine, mate. Yeah. And that midfield would just... It's not built around flair. Like, that's the problem sometimes if you bring a team into the Premier League and you imagine what would Barcelona do or whatever. They actually would fit really well in the Premier League. I think they would destroy. Yeah,
and that's why I think they're a clear 4th for both of us. So this is where it gets really interesting. As I was mentioning the 3 or 4 teams, I was toying between Atletico Madrid, who still look very strong in the world at the moment. Roma, even, who, despite the fact that they're struggling against teams like Bayer Leverkusen, still are probably the best team in Italy on a world stage from Champions League performances and in Serie A. And then Manchester City as well, who, despite the fact that they might not be as consistent as you'd want, they still qualified from the Champions League with 2 games to spare. They're still top of the Premier League. So I had to just go with my gut and say that I think Manchester City take 5th for me.
Agreed, mate. If you're going on squad, team, Man City, you could argue that they could be a little bit ahead of PSG. Some people would. But unfortunately, I kind of justify that with the results.
No.
Because of that coach. It's because of Pellegrini, quite simply. But yeah, I think quality-wise, there's no way anyone could argue with that. I mean, look at how much money that's been spent on that team. It's ridiculous.
I know, and I know there's people out there that will probably be like, "You're just overlooking Atletico Madrid. They're still in They're still in the race for La Liga. They're keeping up with Real Madrid, Barcelona."
Well, Arsenal. Some people might say Arsenal or Man United.
Yeah, Arsenal as well. I think there's a good argument there. Atletico, though, I remember back to the start of the Champions League where they're tying games where they shouldn't be tying games against teams that are way below average for them. Manchester City, I think. The tipping point for me is the qualification in the Champions League, because in the past they've struggled, they've just been diabolical, and they did show signs of that earlier.
So that's why, for me, Arsenal wouldn't make top 5, because in the qualification they were getting beat off teams that they should be fucking walking it against.
Yeah, and that's as cut and dry as you can look at. There will be Arsenal fans that will be like, "Why are we not in the top 5? We're playing really well." He's not going to qualify from the Champions League unless a miracle happens and Olympiacos don't pick up a point in their next 2 games, which I think they will and truly could. But as well as Arsenal still could qualify, but nonetheless, they've made it so hard for themselves. Made it very hard for themselves against teams that are way lower quality. So that's why they don't make my top 5. So to conclude, the Geordie's top 5 is Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG, Manchester City. My top 5, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG, and Manchester City. So plenty to talk about, plenty for the comment section to take light and go in there and start a world war whether Bayern Munich is better than Real Madrid or Barcelona, as I state in there. But as the Geordie says, it's so close in the moment that you can't really... The only main argument that you could have is between Barcelona and... you could really have an argument about the latter stages of it, 4 and 5, because the way the teams are playing, 1, 2 and 3 could easily switch at any moment. I think the main point where we'll definitely see the difference is in 2 weeks. When El Clasico happens, we'll see whether Barcelona are as superior to Real Madrid as everyone expects them to be. And we'll definitely come back with a prediction on that. So as always, Geordie, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an awesome show. As always, check him out, True Geordie and the True Geordie Game, and follow him on Twitter at True Geordie, NUFC, at Francis_Maxwell. See you guys soon.